So today's video is for those of you who need to develop strong boundaries around internal messaging. What do I mean by that? Before I get into it, I will introduce myself. My name is Hannah. I am a manifestation coach, a spiritual teacher, energy healer, retired police officer. I spent 20 years in patrol, and divorce and family mediator. And on this channel, I just try to approach the law of assumption, Neville Goddard style teaching / reality transurfing / Kabbalah from a really healthy, psychologically grounded perspective. We're all about the practical here. Okay, fine. And if you have been following my content for a while, you will notice that a lot of my videos center around the topic of family law, court cases, custody battles, relationships in general. And I think that anything that involves another person, a specific person, or what seems like two people fighting over one piece of real estate or child or pot of money is where manifestation work can be the most challenging, because we're going from wave to particle, right? It's really hard not to become overly focused on the 3D and put it on a pedestal in those circumstances, because it seems like when there's an infinite sea of potential and your money can come to you from 100 different channels, or you can meet your soulmate in 100 different ways, fine. But when it's narrowed down to a very specific outcome, then that narrowness can translate into narrowness in our thinking, if that makes sense. If you like my coaching and teaching style and you want to go deeper with me on your specific issue, there's a number of ways to do that. The easiest way is to click on the link in the description for my website, click on bookings, and see what type of meeting or package might work best for you. Finally, I will say, if you like all of the free content on this channel, if you're getting value from it, then please go ahead and like this video, comment, hit that subscribe button. It really helps push this content out to those people who need to find it. Okay, fine. When you file a petition in court to change your existing custody agreement, right? A petition to modify the allocation of parental responsibilities, parental time, however it's worded in your jurisdiction, that's scary. Even if the facts of your case seem to be objectively clear, objectively black and white. And yes, I mean, there's always competing facts. That is the whole basis of a machlokus, a legal dispute. I have my facts, you have your facts. And an analysis of the facts is what, right? So there are naturally fears that come into play, because the human brain does not do well with uncertainty, right? Human brains do not like change. We know this. And there is so much content about out there about why this is, but in simplest terms, from an evolutionary perspective, the brain knows that the body is its host. And if the host dies, then the brain dies. And the brain doesn't want to die. The brain has one job, and that is survival. And the brain is not very smart. We think we're these amazing machines, and we are, but there is this part of the brain that we're not consciously aware of, and it goes something like this. Okay, the host is alive right now. I shouldn't even say alive, surviving. The host is existing, right? Survival mode. And therefore, because the status quo and the host, the body, existing, having a pulse, having a heartbeat, exist together, therefore, if the status quo were to change, then the body's status as existing could also change. So therefore, I don't want change. Now, obviously, we have a range of change that happens naturally, you know, eating, sleeping, the sun comes up, the sun goes down. This is all within our comfort zone. But it would be very uncomfortable if all of a sudden it went from daytime to nighttime at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The brain would not like that. It would interpret that as a threat, because it's sudden and it's unexpected and it's outside of the comfort zone. So, okay, fine. Now, also, by the way, we can find things like that to be thrilling and exciting. I mean, anxiety and excitement are very similar. But all of that aside, the point is, the reason so many people, and I'm just going to say it, women, do not move forward with taking legal action against their ex is out of fear. And much of that fear has been soothed by internal messaging, which is crazy because internal messaging is actually what we don't want. And that messaging, which we have internalized, which is actually external, is the voices of others. And it seems really logical, okay? Other people are telling you, whether it's some random anonymous participant on a Facebook group, family court system is broken, I'm the good parent, I lost everything, blah, 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 which makes me want to scream. Because what do you mean you lost? First of all, you don't even know what this person has going on. They could be like the worst parent ever, and yeah, they lost custody because they were like the worst parent ever, but their brain can't let them admit that because of the whole avoidance of shame thing. So from their perspective and their delusional mind, they were victimized. And even just saying, I lost everything. No, you didn't, right? What do you mean you lost everything? Statutorily, you can't lose everything. Oh, my neighbor's outside mowing his lawn. Oh my gosh. Anyways, they're clearly a person who is focused on lack, right? They're not focused on themselves, where they can improve, what they were lucky to even get, right? Like their whole attitude shines through in that one statement. And now somebody else is going to read that and internalize that and be like, oh, wow, that must be true. That resonates with my own fears, and therefore, because it resonates, it must be the case. Like, oh my gosh, you want that? Why are you reaching into this anonymous rando person's life on Facebook, reaching into their life and scooping out their poo-poo and bringing it into your life? Unless you want their outcome. It blows my mind. But it doesn't necessarily have to be some rando on Facebook. Like, it could be a person's therapist or their child's therapist or an attorney that they're interviewing. Like, why do you think we're so careful about who our kids are around, right? Because they're influenceable. But guess what? We are too. And we need to parent ourselves in that way and be very careful what we expose ourselves to, because even if we think consciously that we are the gatekeepers in deciding what to let in and what not to let in, we're really not that good at it. And like, our subconscious is really obedient, and the tape is always running, and it can't take a joke. If we have a repeated thought pattern or repeated external messaging, it just goes, okay, got it, fine. This is what, especially if we're giving attention to it and having an emotional response to it, right? Like, that's the whole basis of the law of attraction. The universe doesn't hear what you say you want. It hears what you, and delivers, by the way, what you're giving energy to. You ask through your attention, and not just like your neutral attention, but your attention that has an emotional charge behind it, like fear. The bottom line is, I'm not saying that there isn't ever anybody who has the right advice, but somebody who has the right advice for you is a coach, and there's somebody who's been through what you're going through. And I will give you an example. In my own life in real estate, I was making an offer for a client on a property in a market that I was not familiar with. And there was another agent who, out of the goodness of her heart, was familiar with the market and was also a really successful agent, and had become successful by breaking through her own communication fears, or fears surrounding communication, whatever. And I was really afraid to counsel my client in doing what I knew she needed to do, because I was afraid that she would like freak out and fire me. And I was also afraid to communicate what I needed to communicate to the other agent, because I was afraid that he'd be like, yeah, whatever, we've got 10 other offers, so talk to you later. So it was all fear-based. So she basically told me, this is what you need to do if you want to be successful. And I took her advice, even though it was terrifying. And then once I did that, I danced around my kitchen like a crazy woman, pretending that it had all worked out, which then it later did. But my point is, I asked the right person, and her advice was pure because it was totally selfless, and she was in the arena. And so if you're doing something scary like this, don't listen to somebody who is threatened by your brave, bold action. And it can be very subtle and subconscious, and it could be your mother. Your mother loves you. She wants to protect you. Of course she's going to tell you not to go that route. Of course she's going to want you to stay small and safe. So just be careful with what you consume. Be a discerning consumer. Ask questions. It's like with marketing, right? Why is this person marketing, or this company marketing this product or service to me? It's because they're going to benefit. Yes, it might be a great product or service. I might also benefit. But they don't not have an agenda. They want to make money, and that's fine. That's capitalism. Businesses are in it to make money. I'm not saying that's a problem, but even just getting into the habit of asking questions is so healthy, right? Why? Why is this person saying this? Does it benefit them in some way? How do they know what they're saying? What's their source? And also, why am I choosing to believe that? Is it because it's more comfortable for me and it gives me an excuse to back out because subconsciously I am looking for an excuse. I'm just saying ask the questions, because every question contains the answer. The answers will come. Okay, fine. I think I've talked about this long enough for now. If this resonates for you, if you can think of an example of when you followed somebody else's advice and it went horribly or it went amazing, I would love to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. All right. Bye, guys.